Is it the outrageous takes that people had about my tweet about Bin punching one of those arcade machines where they think that it's totally acceptable for a pro player
we'll
to
start
do
with
that?
the latter, because here's the thing. I actually think the format discussion essentially can just be tied into the analysis of the teams who did and didn't make it out of the Swiss system, because obviously it goes without saying, Monty. You can't, like, I've always thought it was stupid anyway, that in history people just say stuff like, I know why they do it. Like, TSM made it out in 2014. They never add in with no Korean team in their group, because that would collapse the narrative they're clearly trying to build. By the way, I've always said this. You can look at my work in narrative building or journalism. Anytime subtracting context makes your point stronger, you are corrupt, by the way. The whole point of journalism is to add context so that someone knows what was going on and what it means, what is inferred, what the like inputs to the equation might be that resulted in that output. So yeah, as usual, that essentially... We'll have some opinions, but actually just some of the raw facts will actually collapse some of these narratives. But okay, let's make that the main course as sort of the appetizer. So you did, Monty, what I actually thought was probably one of the most slam dunk tweets maybe ever, because what happened is, people will know from this show, I have literally brought up this exact example, maybe even like 2 months ago or something, where I said
in a Q&A, a fan Q&A.
Counter-Strike, in Counter-Strike, there used to be events like this it would often be like in Eastern Europe and stuff, to be fair. There would be events where they would have like an after party in a bar where it's like open bar and you can just, all the drinks are paid for, and they would have one of these machines where it's sort of like you punch that punch ball and it goes back, and everyone knows it does like a meter. And the joke is, it's like that scene out Rocky IV, if everyone remembers, where because he's like injected steroids, he does like 1,000-pound punch or whatever. And you do that, right? And obviously, by the way, whoever invented that, genius, because that's exactly what drunk men off beer on their most base instincts would want to do. It's like, hey, Greg, me punch harder than you. No, me punch harder than you. Yeah. So, like, first of all, whoever that is, genius. I bet that guy's rich as fuck off making these machines. But the maddest part of the context of why I obviously brought this up in esports is, I mean, it's even worse than CSGO, because that's like a precision, like, you know, game where you're almost like an artist. These guys are using their hands during like the season. So you've got people like, I won't say the names, like the greatest riflers, AWPers, they're just punching this thing, and it's like, bro, you know, if you actually just do anything wrong, if you even break a tiny bone in your hand, you've actually fucked potentially your whole career. Like, who knows where this could go. So, okay, that's just a story though, Monty, from the bad old days of CSGO. In 2023, Monty showed, because here's the maddest part, this isn't even like a leak or someone secretly filmed them. It was on the LPL fan club Twitter, which is a great Twitter to follow, by the way. That's all the like, for like Westerners, it has loads of the news that would otherwise be on Weibo, etc. They show a video of Bin, by the way, couldn't really pick a better central casting figure from Chinese League of Legends. Which person would sort of be like, oh, let's fucking do it? Bin, of course, the guy who never saw the 1v1 he didn't like. He's there cracking that thing. So Monty makes what I think, again, is just slam dunk. Like, how could there really be much controversy around this? Monty essentially goes like, it's kind of fucked up that like pro players are doing this when obviously, like, you know, that's like their whole health essentially relies on their hands. Like, and also literally... that the LPL would like celebrate it basically and sort of be like, look at this hilarious in it. Now, I would have thought, who can really go against you on that one? Everyone, it turns out, absolutely everyone in the world. So wrong as usual, Monty. Wrong as usual.
It's so funny, like, to see the actual replies on this. So, by the way, I didn't do any kind of value judgment. I just said that it seems really foolish to do this right before the quarterfinals of Worlds, right? And so the replies I got were absolutely outrageous. And I said, usually it's in these players' contracts as well that they can't use their hands. So let me just lay the land for you guys. I'm not saying Bin shouldn't do this. Now, Bin actually does train, as I understand it, in MMA or boxing. So he actually does have training in this, and it's been part of his kind of fan personality. So I understand why they would want to show something like this. Now, what I fail to understand is how he can actually box or do MMA as part of his player contract, because I'm pretty sure that would just never be allowed, at least in Western contracts. So what happens in these contracts, guys, is that this is very common. It's common for professional athletes as well, but there are provisions in your contract, the contract in which you are paid millions of dollars, where if you engage in activity that could fuck you up and make it so you are unable to fulfill the terms of your own contract to play the game, that contract can be terminated, right? Obviously.
By the way, the key context you said there, notice this, I want people to listen to the language. He didn't say if you injure yourself. He said if you engage in it. I thought, I'll give you a story. I just have a memory like this, boys. In I think it was 2007 or 2006, Radmanovic, who I think was Bulgarian or Romania or something, a player who's like a three-point shooter for the Lakers at the time in the NBA, was actually had a contract clause. It's like they all do in the NBA, where obviously it's about your hands, you've got to have it all. And basically, all that happened, Monty, was he didn't get injured. He just went snowboarding, and basically the Lakers found out he'd gone snowboarding. And if people don't know, you can easily break every bone in your body doing that. So I think he was like fined, and I think he had to like miss some games or something. And like I say, it's not like he came back and bloody hell, sorry guys, I'm awful. I think he just went snowboarding, but as you say, because they understand you can't even let people entertain the idea of doing that. If they even do it, it's not just like, well, if you bust your hand, it's like, no, you got to make them not do it at all. At least in this scenario, like during the season or whatever it is. Like, so yeah, that's a totally standard as far as I know in like professional sports.
Yes, and I can just tell you from talking to people in the scene that many of the contracts contain clauses such as no skateboarding, no skiing, no snowboarding. Yeah. Even no skydiving, which obviously is hilarious because I'm 90% sure that was probably in CLG's contracts when Riot took them skydiving with Dash, which is perplexing to say the least. Also, even it's funny is by making this tweet, I got a lot of messages from people, especially team managers, the physical therapists who actually work with the teams themselves, professional players, player managers. And here's just a smattering anonymously of what people told me. Some people told me in their contracts they can't go on scooters or bicycles. Okay,
as in like the little
electric scooters that you like, the bird scooters or whatever.
Makes sense. By the way, I will say I've known CS:GO talent who went on those after they, maybe smoked the devil's cabbage and crashed them and wrecked their eggs, all sorts. Yeah, of course.
So
they go people don't know they go like 25 kilometers an hour or something. They're not a joke. Those ones. Yeah.
I had people tell me that their players couldn't use those machines. They literally stopped players from using those exact machines before. I had people say, when we play football/soccer, we don't let our players play goalkeeper. It always has to, when we do it as a team, it has to be a member of the staff that plays goalkeeper. Right. We do not let them because they can fuck up their hands, right? And, even what was even funnier is that, so a lot of you guys know Portillo, who is Mateus, who is with Cloud9. He's their longtime social media manager, very funny guy. This guy literally broke his hand on one of these machines at a party at the LCS Spring Finals this year.
To be fair, he is built like Christ on the cross.
No. He's actually been working out a lot. He's actually been working out a lot. Like look at him now. I'm just saying. Okay. And, the other thing, too, was that I actually have a lot of experience with this because I myself have been doing boxing for a number of years. I have been doing Muay Thai for 7-8 years now. And so I can just tell you that if you is trained in this, but even if you are, doing this presents a lot of dangers and you could actually fracture your hand. If anything goes wrong, if you accidentally slip, if you punch too hard, and remember, you're trying to punch this thing basically as hard as you can, and even experienced people can make mistakes. And if your hands aren't wrapped,
professional boxers break their hand in fight hands all the time. If people don't know, in the UFC the other day, that guy Chimaev broke his hand in the first round of a fight against Usman. He's like a top professional fighter.
Yeah. So, it is just a risk you don't take. And so the takes that I saw were absolutely hilarious, such as, how could you injure yourself on this? Meanwhile, my replies are literally full of many people who are saying they have injured themselves on them, right? Including, this was a funny one. Now, it was an anonymous guy on Twitter, so who knows if it's true. He said he had been boxing for 8 years. He broke his hand on one of these machines because he slipped when trying to punch it.
There you go.
You never know. Yeah, of course. You never know what the fuck can happen. And other people were saying, how dare you try and control what pro players can and can't do? Should we shrink wrap them? Should we actually just have them not able to ride in cars because cars are dangerous. It's just the literal cesspool of stupidest
it's always ad
replies.
absurdum, you know. It's always that angle, man. It's always the fallacy of ad absurdum, you know, like that. It's like, no. What all Monty, so let's check out, which is it? Did Monty say they should never do anything in life? Or did he say, just don't when your entire livelihood relies on your hands?
And you're in the middle of the most important tournament of the year.
As possible, punch a machine. Which, by the way, if it ever malfunctioned and didn't go back, you would instantly break your hand. If it, you know, if that like arm just locked in place. Like, if anything goes wrong, like, which one seems more outrageous there to you guys? By the way, it's always that angle. Here's what. By the way, this gives me a small rant that I'll go on here, because sadly, I've actually had to see this with like Richard Lewis's actual workmate, which is people are just so desperate for him to be wrong, they'll side with any nonsense. Like they'll side with a leaker who's gotten like 6 out of 10 leaks wrong, just so that like they can go, well, Richard Lewis doesn't know he's. Meanwhile, he'll have like 100% correct, you know. And so the dumbest thing about this, like I'm saying in this scenario, is if this was like fucking someone you like, I'll give you an example. Like if this was like LS, or I mean, LS has his haters, but he has a lot of fans. Let me think who else this could be that would actually be like reasonable for this one. Who's really popular in like LE? If Caps just said, I think maybe you should stay away from machines like that, you could injure your hand. Would they go, all right, Caps? All right, so then she would just never do anything then, Caps. She would just sit in a room and then never even move and then not even lift books and Caps. In case we break our fingers, would we, Cap? No, you wouldn't. But because Monty said it, yeah, you had to. Your brain went like, what the hell? Now I love endangering my entire livelihood.
Well, it's funny too, because like I got messages from pro players saying that they would be pissed if their teammates did this. Like they would actually just be angry. Like they were angry looking at it.
Yeah.
Pro players in the scene who are active right now.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just ridiculous. And it is
weird
really.
Rajcula actually messaged me privately and he said he was encouraging Humanoid to use that machine. I don't get it. What? Just one of those weird ones there.
That's weird after what happened to Oscar, you know.
I know.
That's
true,
I mean, think about this, guys. We've already had players.
All I'm saying is they did get wondering. He was pretty good in those matches. So I don't know, maybe this is the secret meta. Maybe what you've done is uncovered the, you know, like there's a classic Hitchcock movie like that. It's like the I can't remember what it's called. Like it's basically the one where a guy like accidentally gets involved in like a conspiracy, but he wasn't actually involved in it. He didn't know that he was involved in it. So like it's like that. We've accidentally stumbled on the real meta of how you get people out of the scene, is it? You just go, come on, mate, you could never hit that to 800 or whatever, and then just go for it. And then you go, oh, bloody hell, I guess I'll just have to bring in Wonder, the greatest top player of all time. What's that? He's smurfing on him? Bloody hell. All right.
Remember, we literally live in a world where Soaz couldn't play League of Legends because he broke his hand like punching a wall or a desk or whatever.
Also, by the way, was literally the domino that like ended the most legendary top lane career of all time. Like if people don't know, they were never actually going to insert point to that team. And because he broke his hand, great example, by the way, Monty, because he broke his hand, I think he even playing football or something, by the way, mate. If that ended up low-key fucking his whole career, that was like the beginning of the end.
And some of these other things, such as, well, should pros not be able to work out? Guys, there are specialists in this scene who work with teams in the LCS and LEC who are personal trainers who do exercise with the players, first off, to strengthen their wrists in ways that are safe because they are fucking professionals who know how to do this. And secondly, they are trained not to do the risky exercises that might cause damage. Right,
and also straw man every time. Like here's what the analogy, Monty. Here's the analogy for you. No, pros are allowed to work out, Monty. They're not allowed to attempt like world records of powerlifting, though. I'll guarantee you that much. I'll tell you that right now, immediately. They're allowed to go. So essentially, the same concept, Monty. So because he couldn't punch a machine as hard as possible, now he is not allowed to lift free weight. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, that's a joke on that one. But mate, that is so outrageous. Why is it always a straw man? Why do they never? Have you noticed how they never have a good example? By the way, they never have a good example.
And then also it was like obviously the personal attacks at me, of course, saying that I had never punched anything, which is just I've done. You know, I'm actually this is actually, you know, what's funny is this moment perfectly hits so many of my strengths as a person, such as being a long time. First off, I was a team owner, so I know what's in these contracts, guys. I know what's in these contracts. I've been in the scene for almost 20 years at this point in time, and I myself am a very experienced boxer. So in what universe would I am uniquely qualified to comment on this exact instance in time, the level of danger that it represents, and what it means potentially legally for teams that are involved. Now, obviously, I don't know what's in the LPL contracts because, spoiler guys, I can't read Chinese. But this is an example of just stupid pro player behavior that still goes on behind the scenes. And it's not even that it goes on behind the scenes. It's that it's being filmed deliberately and then actively promoted. It's the fact that Riot themselves are making skydiving videos with the players. Like, what if the CLG players had broken their arm in the fall, like hitting the ground out of the plane from skydiving? So you don't have to have a parachute failure for that to happen. You come in pretty fast and you just have to land wrong. It's, you know, it's, come on. Like, we shouldn't be having these arguments. And for those people who are saying the pro players should be able to live their own lives, they are paid millions of dollars for very specific skills where they are useless to the team if they can't play. They are useless. This is part of the deal when you make a shit ton of money, that pro athletes make these deals all the time, and they are completely reasonable. But yeah, this whole Twitter chain was just completely unbelievable in the reaction that people had to it. And I just don't get people's fascination with, well, just because he's playing a video game doesn't mean he should be restricted. This is just part of having a job. I think it was just a bunch of idiot teenagers who have never had a job in their life before, right?
I mean, you are aware, essentially, if you were to boil down semantically what a job is, it's your boss telling you, I am going to choose what you can and can't do within reason, and do you agree to the contract? That's essentially what every job in the world is. And then they're like, but why can't I just do the one thing you want and then anything else I want in the world? Well, you can, just don't take the job. It's the problem solved. Yeah, no issue whatsoever there.
And here's the thing, Thorin, the last cohort of people were of course, the old man yells at cloud people. Well, guys, why we bring this stuff up is because Thorin and I have an eerie track record of predicting these things going wrong. Remember when we were told old men yell at cloud about the TSM conflict of interest that was later proven via live streamed video and audio to be 100% accurate? We even had Oscar with a broken hand earlier this year for reasons that are mysterious. Hey guys, let me tell you something. If Oscar had slipped and fallen in a totally normal accident, why would they keep it secret? Why wouldn't he just say that? Almost like it was some sort of, I won't say deliberate because people don't deliberately break their bones most of the time, but it was, let's say, unavoidable circumstance that caused Oscar.
Is like, you were drinking, he tripped over something. That was my first assumption knowing esports, you know what I mean? It'd be something like that, you know. Of course.
And yeah, you may think because nothing happened this time that this is a ridiculous thing to put on social media or to discuss on this show. But I guarantee you, because pro players are dumb, not only have we seen this thing happen multiple times in League of Legends, but it will happen again as long as people are not able to use their brains before engaging in these activities. And you know what? At the end of the day, what I am saying is only going to protect pro players in the long run by bringing awareness to it. Do you think Bin, if he had broken his hand in 5 years, would regret hitting that machine? I think he probably would. He would lose out on potentially millions of dollars from his career. Plus, he's a true competitor. And we would be the poorer for it as well because he's a wonderful player to watch play, and I want him to have a long career. And sometimes you're just a dumb and or drunk and dumb kid, right, who doesn't think about that. But the purpose of the teams and the purpose of the pressure is, in fact, to do good things and keep them safe at the end of the day.
I've got two quick angles. One would just be this. I always like to frame the whole context. So let's just check where we're at on the scales of Anubis here. Right, Monte, someone who plays a video game which involves a lot of precision. And in his case, his entire fucking style of play is mechanical outplay. So, okay, that's pretty important. Is him really hard as possible punching a metal-based machine? Is that something that would cause you outrage? No, not at all. But Monty's saying, I don't think this is something that probably should be done. Holy shit! This is outrageous. You know when they say, and then
literally
it ties into
Monte is worse than Hitler.
When they say that thing where they go, old man yells at cloud. No, young dumb idiot who knows nothing creates signal noise yelling at old man. There's yours. Which sounds stupider. Out of interest, by the way.
You know,
Mad,
the other thing is like it hasn't just been the hand injuries. Remember when Insec broke his leg because he was like jumping over that barrier in the stadium?
He jumped out of like the second floor of a building or something mad, I think. Yeah.
No, I think he just jumped over like some sort of. He jumped over something, I think, in a stadium, but he broke his leg doing something entirely avoidable. Is the point of this story. Now, that didn't cripple him from playing because it was his leg, and ultimately he can still sit in a chair and move his hands. But it certainly, I would think, cut into his practice time just a little bit, and maybe caused his mind to wander and him not to play as well. I believe the Shy also stupidly injured his hand at one point in time.
Even though that shouldn't have been funny. Look, on the surface, someone getting injured isn't funny. The problem with the Insect one is, it's too memeable. It sounded like you were doing an insect kick.
Yeah.
Bruh. It was like you were trying to do an insect kick. You know what I mean? That's too on the nose. You know, come on, mate. So a different injury, please. You know.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I did a lot of harm by pointing this out, and hopefully I sparked some sort of interesting discussion.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.